Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Behind the Stethoscope. I am your host, Dr. Elizabeth Brand. I am just a new grad veterinarian, just trying to figure everything out like the rest of us. I want to thank you guys so much for showing up for this episode. This one is a little bit harder one for me to talk about, just because it's not really talked about in veterinary medicine at all, and that is faith. The reason I feel like this topic is being brought up kind of at this point is because this past week was a really important week for the Christian community. I want to start by saying if you're not Catholic or you're not Christian, it does not mean you cannot listen to this episode. I think bringing the perspective of reflectiveness, spiritual faith, I think can relate to everybody, not just if you're Christian or Catholic. This past week in the Christian community was something called Ash Wednesday. Ash Wednesday marks the beginning of a Lenten season, 40 days leading up to Easter. This is where, again, most of you have probably heard this, but where you give up something for 40 days in celebration of Christ being reborn on Easter. But Ash Wednesday is kind of always a reflective time in the Catholic community or the Christian community. It says, "Remember you are dusk, in dusk you shall return." I think this in particular always is super reflective towards me. It shows us how valuable life is. Human life, animal life, we are not here forever. And again, I think that reflects on me every year of how valuable life is and how grateful I am to have another year on this earth. There is nothing more reflective to that than walking into the emergency room after you hear, "Remember you are dusk, and dusk you shall return," to walking into the hospital a little bit later that day and talking to a family about humane euthanasia. Again, it is so hard. Life is not forever. And yeah, we're just going to talk about what faith looks like in the clinic and how I try to live out my Christian values in the clinic. Everybody's welcome in this episode. I don't want to feel like anybody can't listen to this episode because they are not Catholic or Christian. So let's get into it. Okay, so I want to start this episode off by talking about my grandmother. My grandmother, she was my beacon of light. She's the one who brought really faith into my life, or I guess started the ball of it all. So anytime I really talk about faith or my faith, I hear her. She was my angel on earth. So I just want to bring her up because, again, talking about faith, I can only think about her. These are hers. So I know she's here with me in this moment, but she got these animals as she went to Africa. So I know she's with me in this episode. But as a doctor, we are trained to fix things. We can do obviously everything we possibly can for these animals. But Ash Wednesday reminds us that it's not in our control. We can intubate, we can do surgery, we can give them fluids, but we cannot guarantee an outcome. But I think that's where a lot of people have a lot of struggles with, is we can try our absolute best, but nothing is guaranteed. That's where faith comes in, medicine for me. And I don't usually talk about this often, but it's the silent prayers. It's the not performative, it's not out loud, it's not for anybody else, but for me and the person who's listening. It's before surgery as I'm scrubbing, "God, help me with steady hands." It's before I walk into a hard conversation. It's, "God, give me the right words." It's when I'm feeling overwhelmed and the ER is packed. It's, "God, give me this calming presence." And it's funny, for people who know my grandmother knows that that's something she would say. She was a beacon of hope and faith and really in my life. She was an anchor. And I remember a lot of times in vet school, she would call me and we would talk about how overwhelmed I was or how I had these tests or surgeries or whatever. And she was always so proud of me. And she always said, like, "Give it to God. Give it to God and ask him for help. Ask him for calming. Ask him for that you're going to study the right things and all of things." And she was always so joyful in that. And she had pure faith in what she was saying, right? Like, you can say those things, but do you actually believe those things? And so that was something for me that I learned, luckily, at a kind of a younger age. And it's kind of helped me throughout my life of give it to him. Like if I'm stressed, if I'm overwhelmed, which is 99% of the time in the ER, give it to him. And I know when I say those things, God, give me the steady hands in surgery. And I walk into surgery, I know my Nana's right there with me. And that's so calming for me. But I think it's also freeing. Sorry, I get like really emotional when I talk about her, but I think that's also super freeing. Like I think the weight of being a new ER grad veterinarian, right? I think Dr. Hannah Hoos said it perfectly. I think there's so much weight on us when we get the title of being a doctor that we have to fix everything. We have to save everything. We have to do all of these things because we're doctors. But I think he has a greater plan than I do for myself. Jeremiah 29:11. That's my favorite Bible verse, and people who know me knows that's my favorite Bible verse. But I think that applies to a lot of veterinary medicine is I have a plan on how I think this case should go, how I think this animal should do, how I think all of this stuff. And when the case doesn't go my way or doesn't swing my way, he had a greater plan than I do for that animal or that client or my coworkers or anything like that. And I think that relates to us in life too. I think the quote of everything happens for a reason is simultaneous to he has a greater plan than I do for myself. Why didn't I get the promotion? Why did that person break up with me? Why didn't I get the house? Or why does that person not like me? Or why did my grandmother have to pass? He has a greater plan than I do for myself. I think a lot of us can relate to that of you have a plan on how you think your life should go. And God humbles you and no, you don't. I have a greater plan than you do for yourself. So having that mindset in the ER is super calming, super freeing to practice the best medicine that I absolutely can. But knowing at the end of the day, I can do absolutely everything that I can and still lose. Some people that's tough for, right? That's really hard as a new grad is saying, oh my gosh, like I just did everything possible. I did everything right and we still lost. But he has a greater plan than I do for myself. I say that almost every day in the clinic because those cases are really hard and can be mentally hard, but I know he had it from the start. And I try really hard for my patients. I care about my patients a lot, but at the same time, I'm not going to play God and I can't play God. So remembering that in the clinic, that's why I wanted to bring this topic up in the sense of I feel like I would do myself an injustice for not bringing up this topic of such a big part about my life and one of the ways that I get through my shifts. A lot of new grads or vet students or a lot of people outside of veterinary medicine was like, how can you do that? How can you go through all of these losses, all of this death and still remain you or still kind of keep a level head? And truly, it's my faith. It's knowing that everything was supposed to happen for a reason. And I think a lot of people, when they talk about faith and they talk about medicine and they talk about the ER, they're like, what about suffering? These animals are suffering. And I can't prevent that. And I think as Catholics, we talk about suffering a little bit differently, but the animals come in that are suffering, that are hurting. They can't tell us what's going on, or the people crying that they weren't ready to say goodbye. I can't sit there and try to fix things, right? But I think sitting there and sitting with them and bringing them peace, I can't take the suffering away. I can do my best. And same with animals. I can't take their suffering away. I can't make it all better just because of one magic potion. But I think being consistent, being present, and being human, I think goes a long way with especially clients that are really suffering, being compassionate for them and understanding where they're coming from. This is hard. It's not easy. Watching people lose a family member is never easy. And I think that brings up the conversation of euthanasia. I feel like a lot of people have internal debates about euthanasia. And I think there's two aspects, right, of euthanasia. I think it's the people who are euthanizing their animals. And I have seen religion play a really big part in whether a client decides to humanely euthanize their animal or not. But I think there's another perspective of us as clinicians recommending euthanasia. We're not God. We cannot play God. And in human medicine, they can't determine life and death. Like they can't put down another human being. Medical doctors can't. But in veterinary medicine, we can. And playing the card of life and death, and this is what someone should do over something else, or we should recommending death over life, I think can be really conflicting to some people, especially Christians, Catholics, people who believe in something higher than themselves. I think that because then you feel like you're playing God, right? Like you're saying, I know better than him, but that's just not the case. I find euthanasia is very peaceful in the sense of that animal is not suffering anymore. I'm present, I'm there, and sometimes the best thing that we can do for those animals is in their suffering. And I think that's really peaceful at some points. Watching them struggle to breathe or watching them in pain and then them not be in pain anymore, that's compassionate, in my opinion. Some people might have different opinions than me, and that's totally okay. They're more than welcome in this space. But in my opinion, and again, I think that circles back to faith and knowing that they're in a better place than they are here in this world where they're suffering and there's nothing that we can do for them. In the Catholic Church or in Christian faith, life is sacred, right? Like we hold life to a greater magnitude in the Catholic Church, and recommending euthanasia is not something that I take lightly because life is so sacred for us in my faith. And so every euthanasia that I have, I am aware how sacred this is and this moment is for everybody involved. Like this family trusts me with something so sacred, I don't take very lightly. And sometimes I sit in my car, especially after a really tough one, and I pray for that family. I pray that they'd find peace. Pray they know they did the right thing. We do it so often, unfortunately, but sometimes that's what those animals need. It brings peace to me, but I hope my prayers reach them sometimes, especially when they don't have any peace. So everyone always asks what you're giving up for Lent. I feel like this is something, and again, whether you're Catholic or not, I feel like you hear this a lot is, what are you going to give up for Lent? What are you going to do? A lot of people do chocolate or food or eating out or alcohol. And so I think this Lenten year, with how reflective, I don't know, my life has been over the last year, giving up control in my personal life, but in veterinary medicine too. The illusion of I could have prepared it more. I could have tried harder. I could have done more for that patient. Sometimes it's just false. Yes, we can do absolutely everything we can. Yes, we should learn from every single case and every single patient. But sometimes you can't do anything more. And so I can prepare, I can care, I can try to advocate, I can try to lead, but I can't change morality. I can't change life and death. That control and that grip and the white knuckling, sometimes that happen in life, but in veterinary medicine too, is saying I know how things are supposed to go, so I'm gonna make it happen. I'm just gonna will it to happen. You just have to like let go of that control. And that's what I'm gonna try to do over these next couple of weeks leading up to Easter, is letting go control. In my personal life too, I have a lot of things, other things that I try to control in my personal life as well. And I also challenge you guys to do the same. Let go and let God. And that was something that my grandma had always said to me. Let go of the control that you feel like you have. It's just an illusion. Really. You don't have we don't have overarching control of our lives. We like to think we do, and I feel like for the most part we do. But let go of the white knuckling control and open up your hands and say, I can do what I can do, but at the end of the day, I can't change life and death. Some people, it's not looking at life and death. Some people, it's looking at a promotion or not, or getting the house or not, or whether your boyfriend breaks up with you or not, your kids say something mean to you, or you can't make it to the soccer game, you get sick, or again, there's so many different aspects of what I'm talking about, not just in veterinary medicine, that you can let go and let God, right? So I challenge you guys, but I think also adding something into our lives, right? So we give up something for Lent, but then something, we always try to add something in. And I think it's adding in gratitude when a case goes well. I think it's reflectiveness on the sacredness of life after a euthanasia. It's adding humility after a hard case. It's adding intentional pauses before my shift, after my shift, during my shifts, adding intentional pauses, saying I'm present in this moment and I'm going to do absolutely everything that I can, but knowing that he has my back. So I challenge you guys to do the same in your own lives, in your own personal lives, in your own work lives, being more grateful, adding gratitude into your life, however that may look for you guys, adding pauses, intentional pauses into your life. And again, praying to whoever or having those pauses of I am present in the moment I am and forgetting about all the other 500 things that we have to do. Adding humility into your life. The humility of we cannot save everybody and he is greater than I. That adds a lot of weight. We are not God. That humility of like saying we're not God, I think that can be translated across anybody who's watching. All right, vet med people, I'm talking to you in particular, especially the ones in emergency, but anyone. Those hard cases, those difficult cases, those tough cases can harden you if you let it. You have to offer them up, let them go, knowing you did absolutely everything that you could, and you will find peace in that. Approach a case with compassion and gratitude and humility. I think that's what God teaches us. Okay, so we close up this message, I just kind of want to leave you guys with this. I am not sitting here telling you guys I am holier than thou. Practicing as a Catholic does not make me have everything figured out. I do struggle with losses. I do struggle with hard cases. I still get overwhelmed. I still mess up. All of those things that I'm talking about, I still struggle with daily, right? We're never perfect. We are never the perfect daughter. We are never the perfect coworker. We're never the perfect anybody, but it's striving to those places. That's where it starts. And I'm talking about the things that aren't usually normally talked about. So with that being said, I want to remind everybody, Ash Wednesday reminds us that remember you are dust, and dust you shall return. So instead of feeling dark, which it definitely does, I feel like it feels grounding to me. It shows me that this life matters. The work that I do matters. That these moments that I have at work, with my friends, personally, work related, whatever the case is sacred. Even on the hard times, even the hard shifts, even at 2 a.m., even when I have blood on my shoes and I just ruined my new shoes. Shout out to those scrub nurses. And even on all of those moments, like life is sacred. We are here, we are present, we are in this moment. Faith does not make the ER any easier. It just makes it steadier. If this episode resonates with you at all, if you're a Catholic, if you're a Christian, if you're not religious at all, I hope that reminds you that medicine and humanity are not separate. It is intertwined, that you cannot have one without the other. So I want to thank you guys for being here, for listening, for being kind of all in on this episode. Send it to your friends that you feel like would grow from this episode. Again, this is a topic that normally doesn't get talked about, and it was a little bit eerie for me to talk about in particular. But I think with Ash Wednesday being this past week, I think that resonates a lot with some people and brings reflectiveness to this time of the year. Okay, so case of the week this week. I have actually been thinking about this for a couple of weeks, and it wasn't until this past case where it really kind of brought it to life. So this dog was being brought in. It was a 6-month-old, like blue heeler mix. And I'm sitting there getting the history, and the guy is like, yeah, like this dog was out. He ate one of my TV cords, like chewed on like the cord or whatever. And so I've been seeing copper and wire and all of his stuff going through his GI tract, like in his poop. And today we were gone for like maybe 3 hours, and he got into a box of 50 feet worth of cords. So this is like a 6-month-old. Like he is like maybe 20 pounds, maybe. Like he's big, but nothing like crazy. And he ate 50 feet of cord. And I'm sitting there like, there's no way this dog ate 50 feet of cord. And I was like, but we could see the metal, right? Like we could see the copper, we could see like the in piece that you like plug in on x-ray. So I tell him like, we can do an x-ray and we can see. And if we did, maybe we can try to vomit. And he was like, I know I'm missing this box. So it ate the cardboard, it ate the plastic, it ate all of the 50 feet worth of cord and everything. I cannot find it. He is the only dog in the house. I know he ate these cords. And I said, okay, let's take the x-ray. So we took the x-ray, innocent. And it just brings up, it's so funny because in the judicial system for us, we are innocent until proven guilty. And it's so funny because I feel like in veterinary medicine, it is the complete opposite. You were guilty until proven innocent. You did this until proven otherwise. And I think it's funny because I do that with my own dog, or other dogs are like, did you get into this? Or I know you got into this because you're the one that gets into this. It relates back to my first episode of the two golden retrievers, which one ate the grapes, and she knew which one it was. That one was guilty until proven innocent. Until he did not vomit up grapes, he was innocent. And I just like, I think it's so funny. And over this past week, I've had multiple dogs be accused of anything, said thing, and they didn't do it. It's just so funny. But I mean, obviously sometimes they do. They see him eat the grapes, or they are missing the pacifier or the toy or the squeaker, and they know the dog got into it. Yes, some of the times they do. But I just think it's so funny that it's like you are guilty until proven innocent. So anyway, that's my fun case of the week. I just like could not believe that a 20-pound, maybe less than 20-pound, 6-month-old blue heeler got into 50 feet worth of cord. I don't even think that dog's stomach could have held 50 feet of cord. But yeah, anyway, that was one of my really funny cases, and the guy was great. He was a great sport about kind of it all, and definitely joked with him a lot about it. Thank you guys so much again for showing up. If you guys have any questions, any topics you guys want me to talk about, definitely let me know. We will see you next week on Behind the Stethoscope. This content shared on Behind the Stethoscope is for informational and educational purposes only. This podcast does not provide medical advice or establish a veterinarian client-patient relationship. Any cases discussed are generalized and anonymous. Any pet owner should advise their own veterinarian for decisions in regards to their animal. Opinions expressed on the podcast are my own and does not represent any employer or organization.